Yeah, hello and welcome to my presentation. I'm Angel Jacinto. I will be giving a presentation about Company of Heroes. I will be explaining the Company of Heroes magic circles and a little bit of history behind the game. So for the introduction, we have a background for the game. I will be also explaining different ways the game keeps the player entertained and keep him playing the game. I also will be talking about the World War II history events. One of the most major American history event, which is the D-Day on Obama Beach, also known as Normandy. So for just the Company of Heroes background, Company of Heroes is an RTS, which means it's a real-time strategy game set during World War II. It is a Canadian video game. It was released on Windows. At the beginning, it was released on Windows, but nowadays we see it in other platforms as Linux, on iOS, on Android. Um, it was designed by Josh Mosquera, which is an American game designer. So he designs both tabletop games and video games. He was also the game director for Diablo 3 at Blizzard Entertainment. Um, this game was released on September 12, 2006 in Vancouver, Canada. It is inspired on World War II events, as you can see on the image. We can see the environment, the World War II environment, kind of like like the 40s, like 44, 45 environment. Um, it was developed by Relic Game Studios, which is a Canadian game studio in Vancouver, Canada. This game studio was founded in 1997. It specializes on RTS, real-time strategy games, and also is known for Homeworld, Warhammer 40,000: Dawn of War, and Age of Empires 4. And it was published by THQ and Sega. So about the magic circle, a magic circle is a boundary where the players make the explicit choice to play and become part of the game. So in other words, it's whether or not the player decides to be part of the game. And to make a player be part of the game, um, VFX they play a major role on the game. So, for example, we have Bloom, music, graphics, and also the some characters. So, for the Bloom is a flash. Bloom are flashy images coming from the models of a game. So, for example, if a tank shoots, so normally you see an explosion coming from the barrel, and we see, for example, flash effects coming from the barrels when bullets are being shot, coming from guns, when infantry are being in battle against the enemy infantry. We see those flashy images coming from the guns. Um, Also, music it's included. So these games has an atmospheric, calm music, and when it's action involved, it has a high tempo music. It uses a lot of cinematic music basically. And for the graphics, we have textures which defines the 3D models of the games. We have a smoke, which defines the grenade explosion, being exploded on the ground. Tanks shooting at the enemy. So when the tank shoots, it releases smokes, and the player perceives it as interesting, and keeps the player entertained. Also, we see some destruction. So when a mortar or a tank destroys some structures, we see some effects that are interesting for the player, and also we see bullet trails. So for the characters, this is normally on the mission campaign, on the first mission campaign. Well, not only on the first mission campaign, but also all the mission campaigns. So there is a general in the squad through victory. So this general complete missions. This general is the player playing the game. So the game gives the player some challenges to complete, some objectives to complete on the mission. Sometimes are challenging, sometimes are not. It just depends on the level of difficulty the player is playing on. And for the gameplay, we have 3 game modes, which are mission modes, skirmish mode, and online mode. So for the mission, basically is the player play the game story. So the objective of these missions is just to complete objectives and just go us through the entire game story. And for the skirmish, we see normally, the player playing against the PC, which are 2 game modes on the skirmish mode, which is annihilation and victory points. Annihilation is basically the player eliminates an enemy base entirely. So when the enemy base is eradicated, the player wins. And for the victory points, we see normally 3 victory points on each map, as you can see in the images. The more victory points you control, the more victory points you get, and the faster you win the game. And so for online, it's basically the player against other players, so it's PvP, commonly knows. So for the World War II D-Day, so the first mission talks about Obama Beach, which is the landing area in Normandy in northern France, which was used by Allied forces in the World War II, commonly known as D-Day invasion. It was in 1944 on June 6th in Saint-Honoré-de-Perthes, Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer, Verville-sur-Mer in France. So there are 3 beaches. Those 3 beaches is Obama Beach. Also, this invasion, it was the largest amphibious invasion in the history of warfare, in the history of American history ever. They used over 5,000 ships, more than 150,000 troops on 5 beaches in Normandy, which I previously explained. The objective of this invasion was to push back Germans into the capital and just try to eradicate them all. Push Germans back, push where they belong because they were in France, so push them to Germany, and just defeat was, just to defeat them. And as the Americans invaded the beach, the Germans perceived the defeat was inevitable for them. So this was everything. It was a short presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for everything.